Please rise in body or spirit as we sing our gathering hymn, number 1008 in the teal hymnal, When Our Heart is in a Holy Place. Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist congregation of Hillsborough. We are an open and welcoming congregation, so whether you're a member, a friend, or a guest, we are so glad you're here and joining us today. Since we are a lay-led congregation, there are a lot of volunteers who make our services possible, and we want to offer a heartfelt thank you to all of them. Today, we will also be joined by Patty O'Connor, a member of our congregation, who will be offering us her sermon titled From Polarization to Pluralism. Before we create our sacred space and begin worship, let's take a moment to share any announcements. The only one I have is to please check your cell phones to ensure they are silent during the rest of our worship time together. Are there any more announcements for the good of the community?
Our singing group, the Songbirds, is practicing tonight, and we're going to be singing next Sunday on Mother's Day. So if you're interested in doing that, you can come to our practice and learn the song and sing it next Sunday. 7 o'clock tonight right here.
Just a reminder for the RA team, we have an RA meeting right after the service in the RA room. And since I'm up here, I'll also say there's a MINCO meeting, and anyone who wants to attend those, you don't have to be on either team. They're all open meetings. Thanks.
Hi, I'm Patty. There's going to be a care team meeting. It's currently the pastoral care team meeting. We think we're going to change that name with this meeting coming up. It's going to be Tuesday evening at 8 p.m. It's going to be via Zoom, and if you're interested in attending and just seeing what it's about, let me know. I have a link sent to you.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Lou. I'm the listening ear for today. So if anybody would like to talk about anything, I'll be available after the service.
Hi, I'm Heather. I'm up here on behalf of Kim because she's out of town this weekend. Reminder that we're doing our pledge drive right now. Everyone should have received it in the mail, but if you have any questions, you can reach out to pretty much anyone on finance. And if you get your pledge in by May 12th, which is next Sunday, thank you, you get a free car magnet. So.
This is just a reminder, if it's food for coffee hour, like baked goods, or even just picking up cookies or something from the store nearby, would be greatly appreciated. We just prefer things that you can pick up with tongs, that you don't have to stick your hands in. That's been an issue. Thank you.
If there are no more announcements, let us now prepare for our worship time together by reminding ourselves of who we are and why we gather. We are a community who strives to connect with one another in love, our covenantal faith that guides us to support each other in spiritual growth and deepening of faith. And today we welcome you with open arms to our house of worship. We just created our sacred space by lighting our chalice, which is the UU symbol for the light of truth that each of us seeks, the light of hope that each of us brings, and the eternal light of love.
Our opening words today are "We Gather" by Reverend David Breeden. Here, gathered, breath mingling, thoughts intersecting, we seek the simple press of presence, open, earnest. Here we strive to live into knowing our presence is sacred, our connections divine. In the clasp of hands and a shared glance, we claim our place. Beyond thresholds that too often refuse to yield, in words, in silence, in music and stillness, the performances of our existence call to the beauty etched in every being in a world too often afraid to reach out. We gather here in the teeth of hierarchies, in the face of walls built of lies. We rise in wisdom. Our presence is sacred, our connections divine. Please now rise and body your spirit as we sing our opening hymn, number 121, in the gray hymnal, "We Build a Land."
We'll build a land where we buy up the broken.
Ours is a welcoming community where we find connection, a sharing community where our joys are celebrated, and a caring community where our sorrows are lessened. Each Sunday, we take some time to reflect on the events that have occurred this week among our members and friends. Some choose to share aloud, while others choose to remain silent, and here we make room for both. For those of you who would like to share aloud, please take a moment before we begin to center yourself and collect your thoughts, so that what you share this morning is personal, heartfelt, and brief. When you are ready, please come forward, tell us your name, and share what is in your heart. When you are finished, you may release a stone into the vase on the altar. For those of you who prefer to silently acknowledge your joys and sorrows remaining in your hearts, I invite you to come to the altar and release a stone into the vase in silence while Aviva plays There Is a Love.
I know this rose will.
Oh, then there's no words printed in the order of service, but it's I know this rose will open.
Oh, yeah, the wrong words are in there.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Okay. I know this rose will open.
Yeah.
After she plays it through one time, you're all invited to join in singing one verse of the hymn. The words are not printed in your order of service. We hold all these things within the heart of this community, both spoken and unspoken, by remaining silent for a moment as we consider what has been shared and how we might respond. Let us close with Amen and Blessed be. And at this time, let's sing the children to their RE classes with the Children's Blessing, which is in the back of your grade hymnals. This reading is We Are All More Human Than Otherwise by Reverend Richard Gilbert. The human race is a vast rainbow bursting into view of white and black, red, yellow, and brown. Yet for all blood is red, the sky is blue, the earth brown, the night dark. In size and shape, we are a varied pattern of tall and short, slim and stout, elegant and plain. Yet for all there are fingers to touch, hearts to break, eyes to cry, ears to hear, mouths to speak. In tongue we are a tower of Babel, a great jumble of voices grasping for words, groping for ways to say love, peace, pity, and hope. Fates compete, claiming the one way. Saviors abound, pointing to salvation. Not all can be right, not one. We are united only by our urge to search. Boundaries divide us, lines drawn to mark our diversity, maps charted to separate the human race from itself. Yet a mother's grief, a father's love, a child's happy cry, a musician's sound, an artist's stroke, batter the boundaries and shatter the walls. Strength and weakness, arrogance and humility, confidence and fear live together in each one, reminding us that we share our common humanity. We are all more human than otherwise.
Good morning, everyone. Friendly faces, which I need because I'm so nervous, and I'll just preface my talk with that. I have what I would describe as writer's block this week, or the previous week, and especially when Aviva told me the theme for the month was pluralism, I said, oh my God. You know, it's not that it's that difficult, it's just not that a word that I've used often, even though I understand the meaning vaguely. But it was a good chance to dig in a little bit and explore. But I feel like maybe I will have to look at my paper a little more than I'd like to, and so please bear with me as we go through this. The title is From Polarization to Pluralism, One Conversation at a Time. I knew when I agreed to speak about this month's theme of pluralism, it would be a little bit of a stretch for me. I know the basic meaning of the word. I mean, plural is more than one of something, and ism refers to a distinctive practice, system, or philosophy. But I didn't understand the deeper meaning of the term and all that it embraces as it relates to the philosophy. Even though I worship in a pluralistic congregation, even though I live in a politically pluralist country, I've read articles that have used the term, but I'm sure I've never used it in a sentence myself. So before I begin, some definitions. I left copies in there because sometimes I talk too fast, so there's copies, and I want you to just understand the definitions I'm speaking of. I think we all know what polarization is, and that's a sharp division, as of a population or group, into opposing factions. In politics, the grouping of opinions around two extremes. The extremes can become warring factions with the inability to even relate to each other in a meaningful way. And I think we all understand what that feels like today. Pluralism, a theory that there is more than one basic substance or principle. In sociology, a theory of society is there being several autonomous but interdependent groups which either share power or continuously compete for power, but where all interests are represented. At the core of the principle of pluralism is the idea of respect for diversity, because true pluralists believe that diversity strengthens us. Mike Cooper, who we don't know, but as a trainer and consultant, describes pluralism as, quote, a spirit of welcoming warmth, a care to the other. It is a willingness to engage in dialogue. It is an openness to being wrong and to learning. Pluralism says, how I see things is one way of seeing the world, and I want to value and learn from others. He continues, pluralism isn't easy. It's a constant willingness to self-challenge and to look at where we might be wrong or limited, even with regard to pluralism itself. It requires a commitment, a capacity to detach ourselves from our agendas and our beliefs, and to recognize that there are maybe other ways. It also requires us to recognize that we can never really wholly achieve that we will always have things we want, and that there's always a possibility of taking a step further back. Some people may confuse pluralism with diversity. Diversity is defined as a practice or quality of involving people from different ranges, ethnic and social backgrounds, different genders, sexual orientations, etc. Diversity alone offers no promise of equity and inclusion. Hence, the development of diversity, equity, and inclusion, DEI offices in many schools and businesses, which are now being dismantled in some places. I'm not here today to talk about how we became so polarized in our beliefs in so many areas of our lives. It's been a process that seems to have elevated to fever pitch. But rather, I want to talk about how we can move the needle, if just a little bit, towards a more pluralistic society, and how we can begin the process one conversation at a time. I say one conversation at a time because that's doable for most of us. However, if you're a charismatic sort, go for the thousands. Okay? You might be asking, why do we want to do this? To me, it's pretty obvious. It's more peaceful. And numerous studies and polls show us that the divisions in our country, particularly political at this time, and the angst that this causes is viewed by many people as the number one cause and the number one problem affecting their lives. And the stress affects our physical, mental, and emotional well-being. Multiply that angst by about 300 million, and you can see why we're in a little bit of a mess. When I say politics, we also know that it includes much more than that which party will win. It includes laws that will protect the environment or not, laws that will reform gun control or not, laws that will manage humanely immigration or not, laws that will ensure racial, LGBTQ, and trans equality or not, laws that will ensure abortion access or not, laws that will ensure our religious freedoms or not, and even policies that will maintain but not bolster our country's military strength. We often assume that people who oppose what we support hate what we love, and that simply just isn't always true. Monica Guzman, who is an author and journalist, helped to set up a group meeting in Washington State after elections, and she got together the Seattle urbanites and members of a rural community that were neighbors. And what she found was this: Seattle urbanites voted primarily Democratic, and the reason for their vote was environmental concerns. Many of those people believed that the rural folks were probably anti-gay rights, anti-women's rights, and maybe even right-to-lifers. The rural county citizens voted more Republican, citing concerns over protecting their water rights. They weren't sure the Democratic politicians understood or would protect the water, specifically the seasonal ponds that developed on their lands. One of the rural farmers noticed the half-eaten sandwiches on the urbanites' plates and wanted them to know how much work it took for farmers to get that food to them. Most of the rural citizens were not opposed to gay rights, women's rights, or abortion access, and all were concerned about the environment. It just goes to show how wrong our assumptions about people can be. I'm guilty of it too. Just recently, when I heard that Christy Nome shot her dog, I immediately thought, what a creep, so Sarah Palin-ish. And I said, wow, as an animal lover and sometimes activist, I was totally disgusted by the story. But in digging just a little bit deeper, I learned that the dog had developed some bad habits and then even turned around and bit its owner. I'm sure, there's probably a little bit more to the story than I know. But I do know that Christy Nome is a Midwestern farm woman, and they do things differently out there, okay? It's not the way I would have handled the situation, but I'm not her, and she's not me, and it's all okay. I don't think it was exceptionally cruel, what she did. And I'll relate another dog story that's personal that parallels this one. My partner Angel had a dog named Pearl, and Pearl was this little white dog, looked like an Arctic fox, and she was really beautiful, but she was born deaf and blind. And as she grew up, she learned to navigate her environment the best she could in ways that she could. And sometimes she was a little anxious, and she would lash out when she maybe didn't understand what was happening in the environment. As she got older, she might have lashed out a little more often, and sometimes this involved a fight with her housemate dogs, and sometimes it turned into a little bite to Angel. And she still got along, but as she got older, she probably developed a little bit of dementia, and she did things that were a little less explainable and tolerable. And one day, she started barking at the door, and Angel's daughter couldn't figure it out, so she asked Angel to come down and see what Pearl needed, and she wouldn't go out the door. And so Angel, as she always did, came up and stood next to Pearl and touched her ear, which she always did to let her know she was there. And when she touched her ear, Pearl grabbed her wrist and didn't release. And she caused a pretty significant injury. And it was a sadness because Pearl then had to be euthanized because she wasn't safe in the home. And it was maybe a way that I would have done it, which is going to the vet and holding her and all that stuff, not shooting her in the gravel pit. But the result is the same. One way wasn't more cruel necessary than another. So there's a lot of rage out here. but not nearly enough skepticism about what we hear and see, and everything we see isn't always true either. Okay? And certainty is the arch enemy of curiosity. So what assumptions do we make based on TV sound bites or social media clips? Whoever is underrepresented in our lives is probably overrepresented in our imaginations. There's a gap between what we know and what we want and need to know. And this is where curiosity comes into play, if we allow it. A couple of weeks ago, our own Jeff Welty spoke about disagreements within our beloved community and how the roles that curiosity, compassion, and candor play in helping to resolve our differences. If you missed his talk, it's well worth listening to. I'm going to talk a bit about curiosity and engaging others, and I'm also going to include another C, and that's for courage. I add courage because some people reach so far to one extreme, it makes it a little scary to talk to them sometimes. It can sometimes ignite anger and even dangerous behaviors. Okay. At other times, courage is needed to bring our truths to others and to listen to theirs without interruption, without deceit, and without judgment. There are many good and caring and decent individuals in our community, and frequently within our own families, who don't hold our views. And this is where we can build some bridges. It's not about dragging anyone over to our own point of view. It's about opening our own eyes and minds to each other, to find some common ground. But this takes a certain amount of courage too, the courage to be vulnerable. About curiosity. Researchers Spencer Harrison and John Cohen gave a TED Talk about curiosity being our superpower, but they maintained that the systems that socialize us, our parents, our teachers, our bosses, limit our curiosity to practical concerns. It's not our job to wonder, but to find out what people, our parents, our teachers, and our bosses want from us. As children, we're so very curious. We ask an amazing number of questions, particularly why? By the time we get to middle school, it's, can I go to the bathroom? By high school, what's on the test? By employment, when do you need this? It's often not our job to be curious about how we can do things differently or better. So if your own curiosity about the world and others in it has been stifled, you should do what you can to revive it. What would you most like to understand? Go find out. Some things we can do to ignite our curiosity are ask questions, go down rabbit holes, listen, look at stuff not on your phone, write things down, memorize knowledge, and let go of the need to be right. Curious people generally ask different questions, different types of questions than others, more broad and open-ended questions to engage the most expansive response. Jeff gave some examples in his talk. Instead of asking, do you think gay people should be able to get married? You might ask, what do you find hard to accept about gay rights? Or what political ideals led you to support a certain candidate? If we approach these difficult conversations with honesty and humility, our own eyes will be opened as well. We'll be able to see ourselves in each other. It won't be us and them. We don't need to go in search of people to build bridges with. They're all around us, in our neighborhoods, in our meetup groups, in our places of work and worship, in our families. I believe it's our moral duty to build some bridges. It is what will save us and the planet that we call home. Our health and the health of every creature on earth depend upon us getting along and working for real good and social justice. One way that I've recently tried to incorporate building bridges into my own life is by talking to my younger sister, who's an evangelical Christian, and inviting her to have a conversation with me to break the silence that has surrounded some of our differences. I gave her some suggested topics. I limited to 3, but we could go on. I said, well, politics, religion, and my sexual preference might be a place to start. And she said, okay, I'll think about that. And so she's going to think about that, and she's going to get back to me, and we're going to have a conversation. So one bridge will maybe get built. Okay. Anyway, that is all I have to say for this morning, and I invite any comments from the audience if they have any or questions.
Amen.
Amen. Okay, thank you.
Each week, we take a monetary offering to support our social justice work in the community, and our plate collection this month goes to Orange County Justice United. You may donate by putting cash or a check in the basket, make checks out to UUCH, and put plate in the subject line, or you can also donate online by scanning the QR code in your order of service. Please join me in our prayer of collective gratitude found in your order of service. For the love that surrounds us every morning, for the friends beside us, and for the generous gifts just received, let us be truly grateful. Please rise in body or spirit as we sing our closing hymn, number 345 in the great hymnal, With Joy We Claim the Growing Light. Our closing words today are "The Purpose of This Community is to Help Its People Grow" by Eric Walker Wickstrom. If you are who you were, and if the person next to you is who they were. If none of us has changed since the day we came in here, we have failed. The purpose of this community, of any church, temple, zendo, mosque, is to help its people grow. We do this through encounters with the unknown, in ourselves, in one another, in the other, whoever that might be for us, however hard that might be. Because these encounters have many gifts to offer. So may you go forth from here this morning, not who you were, but who you could be. So may we all. Now we will extinguish the chalice. Please join me in saying the chalice extinguishing words printed in your orders of service. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, nor the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again. Go in peace and blessed be.